around the nation, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. Got a great show for you guys today on this Friday afternoon. Oh boy. So we've got impeachment or a lack thereof. So we've got updates on that impeachment. Not so good, but as expected. So I'm going to fill you in on the details, including Lamar Alexander, senator from Tennessee. And what did he do? Well, he's apparently getting attacked on social media, and it's funny. So we'll get into that and why. Then we are going to talk about how Donald Trump wants to save the cows from the evil liberals. Right. That's always a fun story. And then we've got a couple of serious stories. We've got Donald Trump's changes to Medicaid. Very important, including a viral video where a doctor challenges Mike Pence. That's really interesting, really important. And then finally, Bernie Sanders releases his disability plan for disabled people, and we're going to go through some of that and have a discussion. So altogether, pretty good show on this Friday, TGIF. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and share the stream. Very helpful, and all that stuff. So, all right. I guess since there's not really any other announcements, as we are watching pretty much impeachment unfold, they're literally taking a vote right now whether or not to actually hear whether or not they're going to bring in people, witnesses. And so that vote, it is likely to go in favor of the president and have no witnesses. You would think that with all the discussion about wanting to talk to Hunter Biden and possibly bring in even Joe Biden, I mean, this would be the time to do it. But no, they seem to not be interested in Joe Biden. Hell, they could even try to call the whistleblower. Wouldn't that be interesting? Oh, but no, they're not going to do that because that means we could also call in, or the Democrats could call in somebody like John Bolton and many of the other witnesses to Donald Trump. So I don't think they wanted to go that route. And so here we are. The trial, impeachment trial, will have no witnesses whatsoever. Fantastic. Oh, no, totally not rigged trial. Just saying, totally not. All right, anyway. I guess we could get into a little bit more of that. All right. Social media has exploded in condemnation of a Republican senator who voted against allowing witnesses in Donald Trump's impeachment trial. So now, what makes this one Republican senator special? Well, he is a swing vote, and it's Lamar Alexander. So now he is one of 4 swing votes. You have Suzanne Collins that I believe did vote for allowing witnesses, but then you have Marco Rubio says no, we're not going to vote for allowing witnesses. You've got pretty much the entirety of the Republican Party saying no on witnesses. So the only one that I believe are Suzanne Collins and Mitt Romney that are voting in favor of allowing witnesses. But they, of course, will get no credit. And I'll explain why. So now Senator Lamar Alexander, as I said before, firmly came out against calling additional witnesses in Trump's impeachment trial. One of those witnesses could have been possible or could have been former National Security Director John Bolton. Now, John Bolton has been making some news lately as excerpts from his book, and now the Trump administration doing all they can to try to stop that book from coming out. And why is that? It's because the excerpts in the book that have been released or leaked so far backed up the fact that Donald Trump's entire reasoning for holding back Ukraine aid was to get Ukraine to announce a political investigation into the Bidens. So that is an announcement of a political investigation, not doing an actual investigation, basically trying to recreate what Trump believes the Comey investigation or investigation into Hillary Clinton and her emails did to Hillary Clinton to try to recreate it for Joe Biden. So it's definitely playing dirty politics. And in this case, is illegal, as you cannot ask a foreign nation, a sovereign foreign country, to interfere in American elections. All right, so now Bolton also had just released or revealed hours before the impeachment vote that Trump had literally ordered him to broker a meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, and Rudy Giuliani. Now, that is Donald Trump's personal lawyer. Rudy Giuliani does not work for the State Department. He does not work for the government in any fashion. Why would you order order the national security director to set up a back channel meeting between your personal lawyer and the president of a country that you are holding back aid from, and have signaled that you wanted to do to make them do an investigation of your political opponent? I mean, that's some pretty damaging stuff. It more makes the case against Donald Trump. However, the Republicans, knowing all of this, don't care. Nah. In fact, Alexander basically came out and said, no, we already know everything that we need to know. We don't need any evidence. We don't need any witnesses. We're not interested in this. In fact, let me give you a statement. Quote, I work with other senators to make sure that we have the right to ask for more documents and witnesses. Oh, isn't that right? But there is no need for more evidence to prove something that has already been proven and that does not meet the United States Constitution's high bar for an impeachable offense. Basically saying, yeah, he did it. We know he did it. The evidence is irrefutable, but I just don't think that we should impeach him for it. And again, that was also not Mitt Romney's, Marco Rubio's statement as well. Early out, he came and released his own statement, basically saying the same thing. We just don't think it meets the high bar. Talking about high bar. Okay, so pressuring a foreign country, holding back military aid that was passed through by Congress in violation of the Impeachment Control Act, by the way. Doing all that to try to get a political investigation or the announcement of investigation into your political opponent in the next election. So you're doing it for personal political reasons. That is not a high enough bar for the impeachment of the president. Okay, but what was Republicans' high bar? Because Republicans have impeached the president as well back in the 90s. It was Bill Clinton. What was their high bar for that? A blowjob. I guess what if Vladimir Zelensky had given Giuliani or Trump a blowjob, well then maybe we could go forward with impeachment and actually say that, oh yeah, well there's your bar. Oh well, now we can remove the president. Blowjob. I mean, seriously. Look, they don't care though. He was using his office for political gain, personal political gain. But then again, I guess so would any Republican now. That's the message they send. We don't care if any Republican goes and abuses our office for their own personal, financial, or political gain. We don't care. We don't care about the Constitution. We don't care about abuses of power. We don't care if the president tries to get a foreign power to interfere with our elections. That's 100% fine. Hell, we'd do it too. If we were in that position, of course we would. Hey, you know what? You know what? Maybe we'll take it as a good sign. Hey, Venezuela, why don't you get in here and start interfering in our elections to make sure we start electing communists? Oh no, Republicans wouldn't like that. Or how about if a Democrat gets elected and gets into office and starts doing personal corruption to help them politically? Just like this. Would Republicans say it's fine? So let's go ahead and do that. Bernie Sanders, go ahead. Bernie Sanders would never do that. But I'm just saying, the doors are open. There are no more rules whatsoever. Lamar Alexander said it's fine. The Republican Party says it's all fine. We have no rules. We don't need to see any more evidence. Donald Trump is free to go. And therefore, every other president to follow him doesn't have to follow any rules whatsoever. I mean, look, did you expect anything otherwise? No. Donald Trump was always going to be acquitted. And I know he hasn't been acquitted yet, but come on. We all know it's going to happen at some point later today. All right. And here's the thing. Never count on Republicans to do the right thing. Ever. Mitt Romney, you don't get no credit, Mitt. No. Look, again, Mitt Romney said he's going to vote for witnesses. So all he's doing is getting to stand up and say, look at me, I'm the good one. Probably for Mitt Romney 2024. Could you imagine him trying to run for president again? Look, if you wear that magic underwear and you think, oh, no, I'm super, super special, guys. Believe me, God will make sure that I have a planet after I die. Well, then trying to run for president again, not out of the cards, at least in my view. No, Mitt Romney, you get no credit. You get no credit for voting the right way in a rigged trial that everybody already knew what the outcome was going to be. He knew. Now back to Lamar Alexander. Lamar's legacy, by the way, was trending. Let me show you some of these tweets here, share it with you. But first, let me actually highlight some of the key tweets from Lamar Alexander that people seem to be responding the most to. And that's where he said it was inappropriate for the president to ask a foreign leader to investigate his political opponent and to withhold United States aid to encourage that investigation. That is Lamar Alexander literally saying that's exactly what happened. So, yes, it is inappropriate. He also adds, but the Constitution does not give the Senate the power to remove the president from office and ban him from this year's ballot simply for actions that are inappropriate. Well, actually, yes, it does, because that's literally the power of impeachment. Again, the Republicans tried to remove Bill Clinton for lying to Congress, which Donald Trump has done many times, right? And having a consensual affair with an intern. That's not a crime, but you don't have to do a literal crime. You don't actually have to break the law, but what you have to do is to taint the office. If you taint the office of the presidency, well then yes, you can get removed. High crimes and misdemeanors don't necessarily mean actual physical crimes. Although it also can. So they can remove a president for doing inappropriate things because this is a political trial. Now, one more from Alexander. He says, the question then is not whether the president did it, because there is no question, but whether the United States Senate or the American people should decide what to do about what he did. And I lied, there's one more. He also said, even if the House charges were true, they do not meet the Constitution's treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors standard for an impeachable offense. Again, that's your opinion, man. But nonetheless, that's Lamar Alexander. That's their position. That's the Republican position. Oh, yes, Donald Trump absolutely did it. We cannot prove that wrong. But is it really impeachable? I mean, no, I don't think so. No, we'll just keep him there and we'll let the voters decide. Well, then what the hell is the point of having laws if you're just going to leave it up to an election? Again, we might as well not have laws at all and just allow the people to decide everything. I mean, Donald Trump literally shot somebody on Fifth Avenue. I don't know. Let's leave it up to the voters to decide if what he did was wrong. And there's going to be a lot of these Trump sycophants that are going to be like, I don't see anything. I don't see anything wrong with that. Guy had it coming, especially if it's Black or Latino. Man, it's ridiculous. So ridiculous. All right. So now the response to Alexander was brutal. Richard Painter said this: the fix is in, no witnesses. The rest of this should be as easy as getting an all-white jury to spring a Mississippi Klansman in 1965. Oh my God. There it is. Michael Lapidides says, the people empowered to make the decision to impeach are you, senators. I just don't understand how you can write the managers prove their case and not vote for witnesses. More, Forefront says, who needs facts to make an informed decision anyway? This is how you will be remembered. Empress Mish says, when more evidence gets leaked as it has every day, and again, evidence just came out earlier today, which continues to implicate Trump, his cadre of sycophants, and even members of Congress, I hope you reflect on what you could have done to end it. And by the way, he also means Lindsey Graham was involved. So, and he absolutely was. Everted Yield Curve says, when he's acquitted, it will all go down as an unforgettable, unforgivable, and infamous day in America's history. And Chris Rose says, so Trump did it. He plans to do it again. You think it was wrong, but you don't care. You don't want the public to hear and see proof that everyone was involved, including Pence, Pompeo, Mulvaney, and more. And so that's something that I didn't really touch on in this segment of how there are so many people that are actually involved in this. William Barr should not be the attorney general at this point because he is too far involved in this scandal. And so, but here's the thing though. I think maybe this is a strategy from the GOP. Now, hear me out, right? Because I'm going to go a little bit left field. But what if this is a scheme to of course, to keep Donald Trump in power, right? Now, why would they want to keep Donald Trump in power? Obviously, it's obvious. Because Donald Trump puts forward their policy proposals, tax cuts for the rich, et cetera, right? And not only that, but they protect their own electoral and political interests, right? But later on, they can use a lack of witnesses in this trial and you know, the fact that not everybody pays attention to these trials, right? Or that people have maybe a short attention span and say, oh, no, this was Trump and it was Trump only. The Republicans weren't really involved. In fact, we all know that he did it. It's just that the Democrats couldn't bring enough evidence to really sway us that it's something that we need to remove the president for. And so they're going to bank on the idea, I think, that the people are not going to remember any of this and that only just remember the fact that Donald Trump was acquitted and that will give them a boost in the polls. But when Trump is removed, I can guarantee you that Republicans will come back and say, I can't believe Donald Trump did that. My God. I mean, we didn't have any evidence, so we were forced to acquit. And what were we supposed to do? Again, we knew that he did it, but, you know, they're counting on Americans being stupid. That's what it is. And the reason I think they're going to go in this direction is that Donald Trump is literally the most unpopular president we've had. Okay. His tenure as president will be remembered in a terrible light, despite, you know, even low unemployment and all the positives that Trump supporters love to point out, you know, in all these numbers. Even with all of that, even with the supposed strong economy, strong stock market, whatever, which is not the economy, but it's a longer discussion, he's still deeply unpopular. And he's unpopular with Republican senators. They all hate him. And after he's out of power, whether it be 4 years or gets defeated during this election cycle, I think Republicans will distance themselves from Trump. By the way, there's precedent for that. You had Republicans that for a long time distanced themselves from George W. Bush after the disasters of Iraq and Afghanistan and for being an idiot president. Now we have Donald Trump, who's 3 times the idiot that George W. Bush was, and is a complete and utter disaster. Republicans later on will be like, I never supported that guy. No, you guys, you don't remember it. Because again, Republicans, I know it sounds crazy what I'm saying, but we've seen this before. Republicans love to gaslight people. No, you never saw that. Hell, even Democrat Joe Biden loves to gaslight people because I don't know. It's like they don't understand that we have tape of them saying things or statements or that the internet doesn't exist, any of that. So it's like, They think that they can still get away with saying whatever they want and then coming back and saying the complete opposite later on to cover their own ass. And so that's why I'm saying that this is completely possible. He is a stain on the party, and the party later on is going to go, I can't believe we let that Trump guy happen. Wow. Whoa, terrible. Hear me now, quote me later, right? There's a reason, by the way, that every Republican who retires either avoids talking about Donald Trump or talks behind his back. He's toxic. And the reason that right now Republicans continue to back him is for one, power, and will acquit him, right? Is because they want to keep their jobs, they want to keep their power. And the only way to do that is to stay close to Trump because a lot of their base is toxic, just like he is. Okay. Moving in. All right.
But the Socialist Democrats want to shut down American energy. They support Representative Ocasio-Cortez. That's a real beauty. That's a beauty. I can't even believe it, but I don't want to knock it because the Green New Deal, which would crush our farms, destroy our wonderful cows. I love cows. They want to kill our cows! You know why, right? You know why? Hey, don't say it. They want to kill our cows. That means you're next. And they want to wipe out totally Iowa ethanol. They want to wipe it out.
They want to kill our cows. That means you're next. Wow. That was, of course, President Donald Trump at a recent rally in Iowa, spreading more ridiculous lies against the Green New Deal. the best part here is how liberals want to kill your cows. What? Wait, but if you kill the cows, we're not going to have steak and hamburger anymore. But look, I don't know about you, but I love a good medium rare steak. Now, unlike Donald Trump, by the way, Donald Trump eats a steak well done and with ketchup. Who does that? Look, I'm not normally into food shaming people, but what is that? The hell, you can't trust a guy who puts ketchup on a steak. You can't do it. You just can't do it. All right. Now, anyway, no, it's funny because it's completely ridiculous. Liberals are not trying to kill cows, right? Actually, liberals tend to be the ones who try to get organic, grass-fed, non-tortured beef. Or, vegans, and I'll get to them in a minute, but we're also the ones who tend to fight against factory farming. Factory farming, where the majority of antibiotics end up going because they pack the animals in such terrible, squalid, tight conditions that they can't help but get sick. And so we're using up a lot of our antibiotics to make sure that these cows don't die. Now, what does that do? Obviously, that fills the meat full of antibiotics, creates antibiotic resistance, which aids in the creation of superbugs. That's terrible. And so, look, liberals are all against all of that. So there's so much ridiculous here. It's insanity. Now, pertaining to the Green New Deal, and this is what they always talk about, right? Oh, liberals want to ban cows because cow farts. That's not actually a thing, right? Now, here's the thing. Agriculture does add a significant amount of methane to the atmosphere. And that is absolutely true. However, 100 corporations actually are responsible for 71% of the emissions in the world. So just 100 corporations. Agriculture, again, is a fairly large part of that, but so is vehicle emissions, etc. And so you have to put that in perspective, burning fossil fuels. But here's the thing. As far as cows go, it's actually not cow farts or even cow burps, because in reality, that's where the methane comes from, not cow farts, in case you didn't know that. But the biggest animal contributor to methane in the atmosphere is not cows at all or any sort of livestock. It's actually, and this will blow your mind, termites. Termites actually release the largest amounts of methane when they chew through your house. I mean, that's crazy. I never knew that before. Now, there's another big methane, uh, you know, uh, thing that releases methane, and that's fracking, hydraulic fracturing. That's what it's actually known as. And by the way, that has other side effects. For example, earthquakes, groundwater contamination. Those are some of the reasons that liberals actually want to ban fracking. And instead of building fracking wells, which waste groundwater and contaminate groundwater, why we would rather build more windmills and solar plants. Oh, but we forget, Baby in Chief does not like windmills. Uh, they make the noise, and they apparently cause cancer. The guy's such a moron. And now, again, he's hinting at Democrats wanting to both kill cows, and you're next. Oh, once they kill the cows and destroy the farms in Iowa, then they're coming after you. It's complete ridiculous. It's ripped straight from the bowels of InfoWars. And I say bowels because they're pulling this stuff right out of their ass. Remember, these are the same kind of people that are saying that you should drink bleach to ward off coronavirus. Yeah, these are the same kind of conspiracy mongers that come up with this stuff. That's who Donald Trump listens to. So now I want to show you a couple of tweets here. Jay Hugan says, geez, he's in Iowa. He should be saying, they want to kill our cows. You know why? Bacon. Because apparently bacon is a big thing in Iowa pig farming. By the way, Joni Ernst, she is, look, she literally made an ad out of castrating hogs or involving castrating hogs. I mean, it's the weirdest damn thing. And somehow she is a member of the United States Senate. Man, that really makes me think my chances are pretty good. Anyway, Gemini Ginger says, just wanted you to know, and this is at Joni Ernst, who you're playing political suicide for, Joni. They want to kill our cows. That means you're next. Are you really going to stand behind these comments? Of course she will. In fact, she's not going to mention anything at all. Not interested. No, these Republicans are too cowardly to actually call out the insane stuff that Trump says on a daily basis. I mean, it's really crazy. Bad Karma then says, Trump is losing what little man capacity he had. This is as dumb a statement as any that has ever come from anyone in the Oval Office. Well, I don't disagree with you there. In fact, that's right on point. Crazy. All right. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back. We have more stories, including Donald Trump comes after Medicaid once again. And then we've got Mike Pence gets called out, and Bernie Sanders has his own plan to help disability. So people on disability. So that is all coming up next. Please like and share the stream. I'm going to answer some super chats, of course, and read out some member names and patrons. So please get your super chats in while you can before we get back from the break. See you in a couple of minutes right here around the nation.
Mike Pence.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Walderfield with you. All right, so a lot of stuff to get to. First, I want to thank some patrons, Jasper Grayson Wong and Raven Mullesy. So thank you, Raven and Jasper. Channel members are Brandy Fuller and Christy Jackson. Thank you. You can become a channel member by hitting the join button and become a patron by by going to patreon.com/TYTNation. LL with a super chat says liberal bovine death panels coming soon to a farm near you. Fun times. By the way, I'm surprised that I held off saying hamburgers in that segment. So be proud of me for holding off on that. By the way, also super chat from 0083. Thank you. All right, member comments here. Kira Jade says, I wonder if Trump has a bet with himself on how crazy he can act before people start to question his sanity. Well, look, I got to tell you this. Donald Trump knows how to talk to a crowd. He knows how to tell them exactly. And that's one of his skills, one of his few skills that is actually incredibly useful in politics is he knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to tell them exactly what they want to hear and can be entertaining. And that's what he is. He's an entertainer. He's a clown. And so when you go to a Trump rally, you're literally going to a clown show. So great comment, Kira. Chris Green, sorry, let's go to yours next or last. Actus Magus says, isn't the farm runoff causing algae blooms? It's causing a lot of problems. But yes, that is part of, what's happening with modern agriculture. And why it can be environmentally destructive. James Watson also points out some other ways. Agriculture destroys the earth. In other ways, our current methods are causing us to lose topsoil at alarming rates, and it's killing our pollinators, bees, plus the poison in our food. So, look, there are a lot of issues, right? Now, if addressing those issues in our food supply and the way that we grow our food, right, and as well as the distribution of it, if solving that is killing our farms, no, what we're trying to do is the opposite. We're actually trying to make them sustainable and make our society sustainable as well. It's not like we don't have the technology for all this stuff. It's the fact that we don't have political will, and human beings are stubborn things. We don't want to change and actually make hard decisions that maybe in the short term might cost more and have a negative impact on us. But in the long run, makes it so that our society is much more stable and our food supply is stable, things like that. So what we're doing right now in modern society is really short-sighted, and it's going to come back to bite us later on. Now, Chris Green says, finally, I suspect T simply has some sort of physical or mental issue that is getting worse and worse over time. How much more damage can he cause before November? Well, imagine if he wins another 4 years, another term. Imagine if the Democrats suppress Bernie Sanders and put up Joe Biden. Yikes. With all of this, every single attempt for the Democrats to hold Trump accountable, first with the Mueller report, which they did very, very weakly on, and now with this impeachment that was pretty much solely focused on Ukraine, all of this not working, Donald Trump's going to think, oh, I can do anything. Nobody's ever going to hold me accountable. And so where do you think the Republicans are going to stop? Because I don't think they will. It's the power, man. Look, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. All right, anyway, enough of that doom and gloom. Let's get into some other stuff. All right, change that up. Here we go. They want to hear 20-minute rants about dishwashers. They're entertained, man. Look, even watching those videos, by the way, watching that stuff where he's just going off about, you push the button in the dishwasher, it explodes with water, but now you do it and it trickles out. It's entertaining. It's entertaining the way that a car crash is entertaining. So it's like, Fascinating. That's really wow. Anyway, but you can't stop looking away, or you can't stop looking. You can't look away, and so that's what this is. But anyway, let's move on. Super important stuff. All right. Now, the Trump administration has just unveiled their plan to go after Medicaid. Now, this plan, which is being attacked from progressives and disability advocates, uh, as well as people who are, represent the poor, uh, are saying that this is deeply cruel and would allow states to convert federal Medicaid funding into a block grant program. Now, turning the program into a block grant program is, of course, something that conservatives have been looking forward to doing so for quite some time. Now, the reason is less people will be on Medicaid. They'll be able to cut the rolls and have less people on this program. As it stands now, Medicaid has always provided unlimited matching federal spending to states based on whatever they spend providing care to the poor. So ACA had actually expanded Medicaid to states that would take it on the promise that, yeah, we will cover about 98% of your expenses on Medicaid if you expand it. Now, Republican governors are like, well, but what if you pull that funding back? Which is always a possibility. But under the ACA, they said, no, we're going to guarantee this funding for some time and make sure that we cover most, if not all of the costs of expanding Medicaid to the poorest people in your states. So now it makes sense to have unlimited matching federal funding to match whatever the state needs, right? Now, if the state, by the way, decides, for example, like California, they're like, let's add dental and prescription drug coverage. Well, okay, then the money from the government would rise to match what the state is paying. And look, I think that's a great idea. I think dental care is health care. I think prescription drugs are also an important part of healthcare. So look, that makes all sorts of sense. But under the new program, the state would start using a formula to determine ahead of time at the beginning of the year how much it will spend on the adult Medicaid program. Then it would get a fixed federal share in either a lump sum or per person amount. So now the question here on that is, wait, how do you know what you're going to spend before you spend it? You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what people's healthcare needs will be during the year. You don't know if there's going to be, for example, a recession that makes a lot of people lose their jobs, and suddenly now they're eligible for Medicaid and have health problems, or a new drug comes out, or a lot of people, have to have this new drug that's actually more expensive to deal with their, medical issues. And so that's a problem. Now, Seema Verma, head of CMS, says, well, we'll allow waivers, right? But you got to file a waiver on that as well. Okay, but if you live in a state where your politicians are monstrous and decide not to ask for that, or do any sort of exceptions, or ask for more funding to meet the need, then, well, what happens? You're screwed. And if you don't think that could happen, remember, the ACA was originally set up to expand Medicaid to all 50 states until it was challenged by the Supreme Court. Following that challenge that was successful, a lot of Republican states said, no, we're not going to expand Medicaid. We're not going to take federal money and expand Medicaid with it because we're not interested in doing that. No, we want to stick it to Obama. We don't like that. Now, that leaves millions of poor people, or left millions of poor people without access to health care. So that's a problem. Now, the plan would also allow states to cover fewer prescription drugs for enrollees in this block grant program. So you might get stuck with more out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs that may be life-saving that are not covered under this plan. They also could decide who exactly to cover and omit traditional Medicaid benefits like long-term care, transportation to medical appointments, and retroactive coverage for people who get care in the months before they receive Medicaid, which of course can add up. So Again, this is a huge problem. So now, this former Obama administration official who ran the Medicaid program, a woman named Cindy Mann, said this could, quote, skinny down the benefits of Medicaid significantly. Now, if that's not bad enough, the states will also be allowed to impose premiums and out of pocket costs on the waiver population at no more than 5% of their household income. And if you're living on $12,000 a year, that 5% is a large chunk of what you have to work with. I mean, you already at this point don't have enough money. So premiums, out of pocket costs, just like traditional insurance. But at least you have some sort of cap. But again, not good enough. So the other issue that could be devastating, that I've been warning about quite some time, whenever the government says, well, we need a block grant program for quote unquote flexibility for the states, is that you don't necessarily have to spend block grant money on what you say you're going to spend block grant money on. Meaning, they could, for example, Alabama could cut taxes on their resident rich people, right? Corporations, and then use money that's from the block grant that should go to the Medicaid program and just plug their holes with it, the budget holes, and not spend that, on actually covering anyone. Or they could send more of this money towards covering corporate giveaways and subsidies. The amount of ways that Republicans could have used this block grant is immeasurable, and that's exactly why they want it. Now, advocates for poor people and disabled people are speaking up. Alice Wong, director of the Disability Visibility Project, said this, quote, poor disabled people in particular, are going to die. Not an exaggeration. Now, look, you know why it's not an exaggeration? Because if you don't have health care and you have a serious condition and you don't have the money for it, as people on Medicaid don't have money. That's why they're on Medicaid. If they don't have that, then yes, they die. Around 46,000 Americans die from lack of health care. Or at the very best situation, you get even more financially ruined as you have to take out more and more debt, as somebody who already doesn't have that money. Public citizen healthcare policy advocate Egan Kemp also said that Trump's nefarious program is just a Medicaid block grant by another name, and the only opportunity it will provide us is to miss out on needed care or go broke on trying to get it. Trump's plan would ensure that many working families who are currently covered by Medicaid will face cuts to their services, wait lists for needed care. Wait, that we're only supposed to have waiting lists for socialized medicine. Weird. But Republicans are literally making that happen by trying to do these block grant cuts. And then the risk of medical debt and bankruptcy from trying to pay for illness, Kemp said in a statement. These further attempts to cut healthcare are just more evidence that Americans need Medicare for all to protect their access to healthcare once and for all. Any state that is taking this offer is engaging in, quote, fiscal malpractice. Damn. Now, Elliot Fishman, senior director of health policy with an advocacy group, Families USA, also said this, quote, the administration is acting lawlessly. Another statute regarding Medicaid match rates can be waived administratively. We're better than this, and we, the American people, must hold the Trump administration and Republican members of Congress accountable. And then congressional Democrats also joined in. Here you have Representative Bill Pascrell from New Jersey saying Trump wants to destroy Medicaid while claiming to save it. Gee, that sounds exactly what he's trying to do with Medicare as well. Medicare cuts were also on the table. Social Security cuts are on the table. Donald Trump has expressed interest in cutting these. But the biggest program, or I should say the biggest cuts that he's been trying to make to a program are for Medicaid. His last budget cut $1 trillion, or would have cut $1 trillion from the Medicaid program. And that's, of course, those budgets are a statement of priorities. Meaning if the Republicans get a chance to enact their priorities, well, we've already seen it in action. First, they successfully cut taxes for the rich, and then immediately went after health care. Had they been successful, or had it not been quite a fight, they probably would have went after this next. And so that's a problem, right? Now, there's more here. From Pascal, he says, this fiendish scheme is an Orwellian fable conjured up by the most shameless pack of liars to ever occupy our government. Never forget, Republicans' goal is to steal health care from as many Americans as they can. That is a strong statement from Bill Pascal. Damn. All right, more. Senator Patty Murray says, and this, by the way, she's a top Democrat in the Senate Health Committee, put out a statement. Quote, even after people from across the country spoke out and pressed Congress to reject President Trump's plan to gut Medicaid with his Trump care bill, he's still charging forward with harmful policies that will hurt the many families who rely on Medicaid. Make no mistake, and this is me saying this, make no mistake, Republicans hate the poor. They want to stick it to what they call the takers by killing programs to the poor like Medicaid. It's social Darwinism, and that's what this is. It's a social Darwinist attack on the most vulnerable people in the country, the poor and the disabled. And it has to be stopped. Okay. Moving on here.
Working with one of the poorest counties in Michigan, and my patients depend on expanded Medicaid. So how is that going to affect my patients?
Yeah. I haven't heard about cutting some Medicaid.
So that was Dr. Rob Davidson, who is a healthcare provider. He's a doctor, and he was calling out Mike Pence to his face on the recent Medicaid cuts. So now Mike Pence, obviously you could see there, was denying knowledge of his own administration's plan to turn Medicaid into a block grant program. So now let me give you some details about the program, about what they're trying to do. Under the new program, states who file a waiver would be allowed to use a formula to determine ahead of time how much it will spend on its adult Medicaid population and then get that fixed amount for the entire year. So again, that is a block grant that they will literally ask for. Now, that grant can be used not just on healthcare, but maybe to plug budget holes or fund other programs. I did a video earlier today that lays out what's exactly in that plan, but it's not good for people who are poor and disabled. Now, the result of it ultimately is a cut in Medicaid and to try to get less people to be on that program. So now, here's Dr. Rob Davidson, as I said. He is somebody who actually cares about his patients, and he sees a lot of people that are on Medicaid that need this program to be able to get the health care that they need. So now he's going to continue to press Mike Pence on this and check out his response.
When I was governor of Indiana, we got a waiver from the Obama administration that actually allowed us to expand Medicaid coverage in the states.
Right, but now they're talking about scaling back the Medicaid expansion that we got with the Affordable Care Act, and that 680,000 Michiganders, 600,000 in Iowa. I mean, a lot of people got health care.
We expanded coverage in Indiana.
Right, but I'm just talking about the president and your administration right now, what they're doing. Right now, they're cutting Medicaid.
Those are waivers for states that didn't take expansion.
No, it's for people who took expansion money too. I mean, your administration just announced this, they rolled it out today, and it's going to affect millions of people across the country cutting Medicaid. I mean, is that a good idea, or is that a bad idea?
I think you're oversimplifying it.
Well, I think it comes down to that for the people I take care of all the time. I mean, people I see in the emergency department that can't get primary care doctors, once they got Medicaid, they could get primary care doctors. They stay out of the ER. They actually work more. They actually contributed to our community more. Now, if a couple of people sorry you don't get your health care, I mean, that's going to be a real negative in their lives.
Yeah. Well, if you check out what we did when I was governor of Indiana, the Healthy Indiana Plan, which was the first consumer-directed waiver that was given ever. We expanded coverage. We used consumer-directed health care. People were able to take more ownership of their own health care and expand it.
I mean, I think if the Trump administration and you want to expand Medicaid, that'd be great. But the problem is they're contracting Medicaid.
I love this. So, for one, Dr. Rob Davidson, you're badass. That's awesome. So I love how he's calling out Mike Pence there. And I love his reaction, right? Pence's reaction. Indiana, look what we did in Indiana. We had, what was it? Patient-centered or consumer-centered healthcare or something like that. What is that? No, healthcare is healthcare. If you provide people, and this goes to a wider argument about actually having Medicare for all, we don't want like consumer-centered healthcare because we shouldn't be consumers. Healthcare is a literal human right. Everybody needs healthcare. We shouldn't be treated as customers. This isn't buying Nikes. We're not picking out a cell phone. Okay, this is healthcare. This is literal life or death. But okay, he says, well, okay, look at what we did in Indiana. I expanded Medicaid. I expanded healthcare. All right, well, what did he do? Now, it turns out that Indiana did expand Medicaid, but his state ended up getting a special waiver from the Obama administration. So now in this waiver, it stipulated that enrollees to the Medicaid program actually had to contribute to a health savings account. If they failed to do so, then they were at risk at losing their benefits. Now, those the people that are enrollees to Indiana's Medicaid program also had to pay premiums and had work requirements put on it as well. And now that's what he did. He did the very most conservative version of being able to expand Medicaid that they could do. Not exactly generous. And yet the Trump administration says, you know what? Too generous. We're going to shift the block grants and basically let the states be able to cut Medicaid if they want to. As far as Pence not knowing, I wasn't aware that we were going to cut Medicaid, complete and total fabrication. And then deflection after deflection. Look at what we did in, look, we expanded healthcare. It was super, super, super conservative, but we expanded it. Yeah. And then a complete, of course, denial of what the administration is doing. He absolutely knows. And Dr. Rob, man, called him out on it to his face. And that's awesome. Now, after the exchange, he went on Twitter and he said, quote, I confronted him about his damaging healthcare cuts because for me, it's not about politics. It's about saving lives. As he is a doctor, of course, he would know that. He said, when I told him he's putting my patients' lives at risk, the vice president deflected and denied knowledge. He either doesn't understand or doesn't care about the impact of the administration's policies on patients everywhere. And look, man, I think it's the last one. I think he doesn't care. I think to a lot of these Republicans, a lot of these conservatives, they think that poor people don't deserve health care. They don't believe that it's a human right to show compassion to the sick and the poor without them paying for it first, right? Because to a lot of these people, poor people are takers. People on welfare, people on food stamps, people on Medicaid, well, they're just takers. They're taking my money. Well, why should I have to pay for them? Well, when I don't have health care. Well, you know what? That's why we should have Medicare for all. Everyone in, no one out. Everybody gets covered. But I just want to thank Dr. Rob for doing this, for exposing Mike Pence for who he is. Now, the video that I showed you has been getting a lot of views. I'm going to put the link in the description so you can share that around, so you can share what Mike Pence was caught doing, lying and deflecting. And you can see Dr. Rob challenge him as a healthcare professional. Share this video, share that one too, so that the world can be reminded of just how loathsome Vice President Mike Pence really is. Okay. One quick story here. All right. Senator Bernie Sanders, this is really, hold on a second. Senator Bernie Sanders has just unveiled his new proposal to help the disabled. And now he will join at least 7 other current and former Democratic candidates who have released their own disability policies within the last few months. So now this is important. Former Vice President Joe Biden, by the way, is the only one who doesn't actually have a disability plan. At least he's the last remaining top polling candidate who doesn't have a plan. Now, Elizabeth Warren has a plan. That is interesting. Warren's plan, of course, gets disability activists pretty excited. But in this, Bernie Sanders' plan is actually stronger. Now, his proposed policy page opens with the declaration that disability rights are civil rights. It's something that's really, really important to recognize. His proposal spans issues including healthcare, employment, social security, education, environmental justice, housing, immigration, incarceration, technology, and voting, all of which, of course, deeply affect people who are disabled as well. Now, the plan begins by outlining a number of steps that Sanders would take using executive actions. Now, one of those actions includes appointing an attorney general who would aggressively enforce the Supreme Court's Olmstead versus LC decision. Now, that requires states to offer services to disabled people in integrated settings. So that's important, that enforcement. He says, this is Rebecca Coakley, director of the Center for American Progress's Disability Justice Initiative. Now, look, the Center for American Progress, we got a few beefs with them, right? But Rebecca Coakley says this, quote, starting off with community integration shows that the Sanders campaign is clearly in touch with the energy and priorities of the grassroots. That is the most positive statement, I believe, to ever come out about Bernie Sanders from the Center for American Progress. So I'll take it. Now, by the way, the Center for the Disability Justice Initiative for the Center for American Progress advised both the Warren campaign and the Sanders campaign, and had worked with also other candidates in trying to help make disabled people a priority. Now, like other candidates, including Warren, Biden, because Biden, even though he doesn't have a specific plan, he has talked about this a little bit, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senator Amy Klobuchar also have called for funding the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and ending the sub-minimum wage. Now, what is a sub-minimum wage? Well, it allows, it's basically a federal policy that allows certain employers to pay some people with disabilities incredibly low wages. Now, Goodwill is one example. Goodwill is a company that hires and has gotten caught paying disabled people a sub-minimum wage. In fact, last year, advocates have pointed out to a story where workers in Illinois classified as having mild or moderate disability were making less than $1 an hour in America, in Illinois, and making less than $1 an hour. Well, hey, look, they're disabled, so we could pay them less. No, some stores, by the way, didn't even pay their disabled workers at all. Complete and total exploitation of workers. Also, like Warren, Sanders does promise to create a national office of disability coordination to oversee disability policy, and both of their plans go into detail about how they would reform Social Security, disability insurance, and SSI. So those are two important programs that help the disabled. Now, Bernie Sanders says, and he goes more progressive in this, he would eliminate asset limits and eliminate penalties that make it harder for some people with disabilities to get married and keep benefits. That's important. Warren also promised to raise the SSI benefit to match the federal poverty line, while Sanders' plan would push it to 125% of the federal poverty line. So, an increase in SSI benefits. Wonderful. Now, his Medicare for All program would also support long-term services such as in-home support and community living as opposed to being placed inside of institutions. Again, super important. Now, there's other things that are involved as well. For example, disaster preparedness legislation, a $40 billion climate justice resiliency fund, establishing an office dedicated to climate resiliency for people with disabilities, and ensuring that the Green New Deal's implementation takes disabled Americans into account. So this is very, very comprehensive. It's basically the only plan that includes disability rights in addressing climate change. Very, very inclusive. So, and of course, the reason for that, and the reason that it took so long for Sanders to come up with this plan, is that they had worked with a lot of disability advocates and experts and tried to find out exactly what they need and then crafted it to fit in with the rest of Sanders' policy priorities. So one thing that I've noticed is that every big policy proposal feeds into another. Medicare for all feeds into the Green New Deal. Green New Deal is connected to disability rights, healthcare. You have all these different pieces of legislation or possible proposals that will become legislation that tie into each other. And so, I mean, that is, look, again, it takes a long time to craft that and to make that interconnection happen. But it shows that Sanders is not messing around when it comes to actually putting forward a unique vision for a better America. So very detailed, very intersectional, very inclusive. So I'm really glad to see the Democratic Party is seriously looking into helping members of the disabled community. They're not exactly the biggest voters. They don't exactly turn out. And so to see the renewed focus from some of these candidates, even Cory Booker, who had dropped out previously, to see him have a plan that involves disabled Americans, that's wonderful to see, because they're people that deserve to have representation just like the rest of us. Okay. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. So here's information in the chat here. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the super chats, Mandy Elwell 0, and thank you for joining me. We'll see you guys on Monday. You have a fantastic weekend, and remember, change begins with you. Night Nation. See you later.
Please clap.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.